You know, because all these guys are totally controlled by the special interest in the lobbies. Believe me. I've been there. I was the one that used to give all the money. Now all of a sudden, I went like this. So with The Apprentice, so I turned it down, and we get a story from a very dishonest paper. Donald Trump gets fired from NBC. Now they know it's not true. And in fact, I get a big chunk of the show. You know, I created it with Mark Burnett. And so they fired. And they said, Trump gets fired by NBC. And they know it's not true. So they call up. They say, yeah, we knew, but it just sounds better. It plays better, doesn't it? Oh, yeah. They're such dirty, rotten liars. It's disgusting. So I gave up The Apprentice. And then I said, you know, we had to put down in filing certified numbers. And they said, oh, well, maybe Trump won't run because that's a big thing. So he'll never announce. So I announced. Then they say he'll never do Form A. Form A is like where you sign your life away. Phil would never do it. He would never do it. Too smart. You would never do this, Phil, believe me. You should. That's the kind of guy we need, but he's not going to do it. He's happy. Got a great family, got a great hotel, got lots of great things. But, so they'll say he never filed Form A. I filed Form A. Then they say, oh, but he'll never file his financials because maybe he's not as rich as people think, okay? So I filed. By the way, I was one of the few that filed in time, and I had almost 100 pages. These guys had one page. You know, I worked for some company. No, it's true. And they were late. They needed extensions, and I filed on time. I wanted to file on time. I actually filed ahead of schedule. You were entitled to 2 45-day extensions, automatically. And I just filed. And they found out that my company, and Phil would know because he knows my company, is much bigger, much stronger, much better, much richer than they ever thought possible. They couldn't believe it. So that's done now. So what I did is I did this file, and from the day I've done this, and my wife said to me, it's very interesting, and Ivanka, has anyone ever heard of Ivanka? And Melania. They're two great women. And you watch, they're going to come out, they're going to start campaigning pretty soon, and they're going to be here. And they believe so much and so strongly in the women's health issues that Bush, by the way, didn't want. I saw that. He didn't want to fund them. And Hillary, you know, puts on the vote, oh, how dare he talk about it. She said, she acted indignant. Can you imagine? Here's a woman cheating the United States government for years with her email. It's a criminal record. He's got a criminal record now. They destroyed 5 other people for doing about 1/10 of what she did. And I don't know, I think she's going to get away with it. Can you believe it? They destroyed Petraeus. General Petraeus, good guy. They destroyed his life. What he did is 2% of what she did. So you tell me it's fair. But I look forward to running against her because, frankly, that is going to be such a big issue.
He deliberately gave top secret information to his girlfriend.
She will fight very hard because she has to win. Because the statute of limitations is 6 years. Do you know what that means? Oh, do you know what that means? There's some guy up there, he's probably a lawyer, he's laughing like that. Oh, so, I mean, if a Republican gets in, it's got to be fair. But if a Republican gets in, they're going to have to look at it. 6 years. So she's fighting for her life. And I think the Democrats are going to leave her alone because it's a corrupt system. And I think they're going to leave her alone. But if a Republican gets in, I don't say that she's guilty, they have to check. But if a Republican gets in, we have a 6-year statute of limitations, and I guarantee at least there'll be a fair investigation that will work. So she's really fighting. So she's really fighting for her life. And she's gotten, it's very interesting, at the same day, she said, I don't like Donald Trump's tone. I don't like his tone. And Bush said the same thing.
We love your tone.
And Rubio said it. They said, I don't like Donald Trump's tone. And I said, wait a minute, we need a tough tone, don't we? We're tired of these weak, pathetic, sad people that don't have a clue, that won't do anything. We are going to make the country better than it's ever been before. We have a chance to...
heard
So
that
they
before
said,
somewhere. What
we
was that?
don't like Mr.
Mein Kampf?
Trump's tone. They want to be low-key, Let's fall asleep. And China, you ever see China's tone? They walk through the door. Believe me, I deal with them. They don't talk about, oh, isn't it a beautiful day, Mr. Trump? The sky is so beautiful. Look, Mr. Trump, outside. It's all business. We want to extend lease. Right? There's no games, right? There's no games. There's no small talk. There's no small talk. There's no how's the weather around. So it's raining. Oh, it's not too bad. I'll have to call my wife. It's all business with these people. And they hit you in waves. You know, when I deal with China, and I love China. I love the people. They're great. I love the Mexican people. They're great. When I deal with China, and they walk in with waves of people, smart people. I have so many. He says, build the wall. We'll build the wall. Don't worry. Next we'll build the wall. I want people of that to come in legally, you know. Okay. But I will tell you, China, they come in and they negotiate, and you're sitting there by yourself and you got like 25 people across the table. And every one of them is a genius. But if you're good, you can take it, you can do deals that are unbelievable. So I asked my people last week, I said, go back and tell me what is the trade imbalance with China? And I was surprised. Which was so, I thought it was big, but I didn't know it was this big. It's almost $400 billion a year. Essentially, that means we're losing $400 billion. Now, it's worse than that, because they've devalued their currency, so they're taking our jobs, they're taking our base, they're taking our manufacturing, and then, on top of it, we owe them, think of this one. You know, we owe, China's our largest creditor along with Japan, they're actually exactly the same. We owe each of them $1.5 trillion. So they steal our jobs, they take our money, we owe them money. How do you figure that one? Not too good, right? All these geniuses here. Not too good. I call it a magic act, it's incredible. They take our money and we owe them money. It never ends. But we owe them $1.5 trillion. We owe total $19 trillion. We owe Japan $1.5 trillion. Then I said, so, I was in Los Angeles 3 weeks ago. I saw the biggest ships I've ever seen. The biggest. And cars are pouring out of these ships. They're from Japan. Like the Long Island Expressway. I never saw cars go so fast. They're going like 50 miles an hour off a ramp. Shooting. It's almost like the ramp, I don't know if you saw it last week, it was a picture in one of the papers. The ramp they built, they have a wall that's this big. Great walls. Between the borders. Okay? They have a wall. And they built a ramp. Rather than tear down the wall was so small they didn't have to bother tearing it down. They built a ramp and they have trucks going back and forth over the ramp. Nobody's doing it. I mean, how stupid are we? How stupid. But China, so they owe, we have a imbalance with them, almost $400 billion a year. Now, if that's the number, you know it's worse than that, right? Because when the government gives you numbers, like they say 5.3% unemployment. The number's probably 32%. I saw one report done by a pretty credible guy saying our unemployment rate is 42%. Because when you add back the 100 million people, you're right up to those numbers. But add back half of the 100. So we have a 20%, 25% unemployment rate. But this was done by politicians so that they look good. Because if you stop looking for a job, statistically, you are considered that you have a job. So then they say, oh, unemployment is down, we're down to 5.3. We're not down. Nobody has jobs. I mean, I wouldn't have caught on, to be honest, I wouldn't have caught on. Leading every poll, I wouldn't have been catching on, I think, if the economy were real. It's not a real economy. It's a phony set of numbers. They cook the books. You ever hear the expression? They cook the books. The politicians cook the books. So what happens is, I get the reports yesterday, and the reports are amazing. I love polls. And somebody said, he talks about polls and the other people don't. That's because I'm winning. Now, there may be a time when I stop talking about polls. If I'm number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 12, some of these guys have nothing. They have 0. Out of, 20,000 people, they didn't get 1 vote, they have 0. How do you do that? To me, that's more impressive than leading. You wouldn't know. So they said, I saw on television tonight, they said, oh, he talked about, because I was in Iowa yesterday. It was amazing. Packed. Overflow crowd, amazing people. like you, they want to see the country be strong, and they want to see the country. Amazing. But I was talking about the polls, and one of the reporters who's actually here today, one of those live people, and barely alive. No, they said on television, Mr. Trump talked about the polls. Well, the polls just came out. And I thought to myself, maybe I do talk about polls too much. And then I realized I've been leading since I came out. And Melania, my wife, and my daughter said, you know, Dad, if you ever run, you're going to win. And I said, why do you say that? Because nobody thinks you're running. And if they poll you, nobody's going to give you, when they poll you, before I announced or before I signed my life away, because that's what you do, you sign your life away. You know, it takes guts to run for office. Especially if you're not a politician. I never did this before, folks. That's why nobody understands what's going on. These guys are governors, senators, these guys are all, and so here's what happens. So Florida winning big, Florida, 28-29%. Pennsylvania, big, great, important state. Anybody from Pennsylvania? We love Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania a lot. Pennsylvania, I'm leading big. Ohio. So the poll comes out, and it's Quinnipiac, which is a great company, great polling company, the real deal. And they just hate it. And I'm leading Ohio, and I'm beating a very nice guy and a good governor named Kasich by a lot. Kasich is a good governor. He's a good guy. And he's, you know, I'm leading by a lot. And people say, what's going on? You know, what's going on? Then they have a poll come out, OAN, which is a great poll, and I have 35%. So we get, as I said, highest ratings in Fox, highest ratings in the history of CNN for these debates. The highest ratings. And by the way, all the polls, they poll everything. I love these things. They poll who won the debate. Every single poll, Time Magazine, Drudge, Slate, places I never even heard of. Everyone said Trump. But then I turn on the television, oh, Donald had a bad night tonight. I'm saying, what did I thought I won? And then they said, well, you know, first of all, just to show you. So CNN, I like CNN. They're good guys. I think Jeff Zucker is a good guy. I think Roger Ailes is great. Great. But I tell you, I go home and I watch it. I say, I'm going to watch myself on top. Who wouldn't do it? So I say, oh, that was good. Then I see the pundits coming. You know, these highly paid guys that don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. And they say that they didn't like it. I was good in the first debate, but then they said, here's the beauty. For 28 minutes, I didn't say anything at the end. And then he faded in the end. I wasn't asked any questions. I wanted to say, they're so dishonest. So here's what happened. So for the first 2 hours, everything was me. It was either a question to me, right? These guys are honorable guys, even though they off-suit stand-up and they're rich guys. These guys are loaded. Look, that's why they're in the first row. Of course, I always heard in the theater, fourth row is the best. We're going to teach you that. Fourth row is actually. But you know, so they went out, and they do this thing on television, and they hit me, and I'm saying, I can't understand it. My daughter comes up, she says, Dad, every single polling worker says you won. They all say you won. And I just think, but on the CNN debate, it was 2 hours, right? A 2-hour debate. Now, they were supposed to get, no, it was 2 hours, and then they made it 3 hours. No, it was a 2-hour debate when I got there. Don't ruin my story. No, it was a 2-hour debate. And then about a day and a half or 2 days before, what happened is, it was in Variety, it was in Hollywood Reporter, which is a terrific group. They did a nice cover story on me, I like them, Janice. But they did a story about rates. They took the rates from, in the case of Fox, I think in the case of CNN, from $4,000 for probably a 30-second ad to $200,000. So it was a 4,000% increase. Now Phil Ruffin's really perking up, but he is. That's your language, right?